So I wanted to go over a quick LinkedIn ads audit checklist, go through all the points and show you inside an actual campaign what that looks like, where to check for it, and let's get into it. All right, so I made a post today, and I've made this before, a LinkedIn audit checklist. So 10 things that you can check inside of your account to make sure that you're not wasting money. So I'm actually going to dive in. So here's the post and here's the basic things. I'll just breeze through them right now, and then I'll show you inside the account what that looks like. Insights tag working, conversion tracking in place, conversion values, both last and each conversion, retargeting audiences, the main buckets should be pooling, LinkedIn audience network, what percentage of spend it's taking, targeting, ad structure, demand gen principles, and then the actual assets. So let's look in our actual campaign and I'll kind of show you around. So the first one is insights tag working. The easiest way to check this is go into your plan, go into audiences, and you should see a signal from your website visit type sources. So you can actually go into sources and you can go into website, if I can actually find it, website. And so these are your website sources, and then you should have a signal. Unless you have a dead website, there should be a signal in the last, handful of minutes or last hour or so. Next thing is conversion tracking in place. So now that we know that we have a signal to the website, the next thing I would look at is conversion tracking. So the way I have it set up, form fills on your website are fine, leads are fine, but what you really want to track is down the funnel, call bookings and purchases. And all you have to do in order to get that set up is have and this is really important. So if you want to track call bookings on Calendly or on HubSpot, you simply have to set up a URL redirect so that upon call booking confirmation, they get forwarded to a call booked confirmed page. And that's it. Now you have a trackable conversion that you can set up in all of your ad channels, not just LinkedIn, and it gives you a point of reference. I would do the same thing for purchases, and again, we can get into how to set those up on another time, but you want to set up call tracking, or you want to set up conversion tracking for actual meaningful things. The next thing is tracking down as far down the funnel as you can, but also having values in place. So it's not enough just to put conversion tracking. You actually want to assign values. If you can see this value column here, you want to assign values so that when you're in the console working, it's not just how many conversions did we get. It's actually, weighted by value. So key page visits are worth maybe $1. An actual form submission might be worth $25. A booked call might be worth $150, and a purchase might be worth, $1,500 or something. So again, you want to be able to chase valuable conversions and not just the cheapest low quality conversions. I would use both last and each touch. What is that? So inside that conversion tracking, when you're selecting a conversion, you see I have booked call last and booked call each or every. And when you go in there, it's this little selection here. You can say, do you want it to be last touch each campaign or last touch last campaign? My answer is to set one up for both. And what that is if someone sees 4 of your ads and they interact with those 4 ads and then convert, each would say each of these ads gets a credit for a conversion. Last would say just the very last touch gets credit. So I think both are valuable. I want to know the ads that played a role in the journey, and I want to know the last ad that pushed them through. I would assign each one's lesser value, like maybe $10, $20, and then the last one, the lion's share of the value, so maybe $100, $150. I would get conversion values, and I would use last and each. The next thing is creating retargeting audiences. So insights tag working, conversion is working. The next thing you want to do is just have these audience set up so that you can pool them and be collecting them. For many companies, even before you get into retargeting, if you just set up these audiences, let them pool, you can start with retargeting versus waste time on LinkedIn cold and then pivot into retargeting. So let's look in here. So inside here, I can see these are all the different custom audiences that you can set up retargeting groups from. So you can do, the main ones are from website. So if they visit the overall website or certain pages, if they visit your company page, if they interact with any of your ads, open a lead gen form. So all of these are different audiences you can make. And again, I would say that it's better to just get in there and set these up way before you plan on using them. That way they're pooling. That way you could start with retargeting and have all this data versus, wasting a bunch of money on cold and then eventually getting to retargeting. So let's get back into this next one. So I would set each of those up in different buckets: 30-day, 90-day, 180-day. Let them collect. You're not going to use them all at once, but just let them pool. The next one is LinkedIn Audience Network. So LinkedIn Audience Network is like Google Display or Display in general. If you go to this breakdown here and you do on versus off network, you can see how much of your campaign is being spent on LinkedIn or on the Audience Network. So currently we're not leveraging the Audience Network in this campaign, but if I go to all time, you can see how it's broken out here. I would caution you, if you haven't looked at that before, go to your campaign, look at that. If you have Audience Network allowed, a lot of times it'll take 95% of your budget. It's really ugly. So the way you fix that, if you want to turn it off, is two ways. You can go into your campaign and let's just pick this one. Click the three dots, go to edit. Let me turn this off. Okay, so here's your targeting. And down here, this is where you would normally have Audience Network enabled. And so if it's check marked, then you then have the option of doing all these exclusions. But even with all these exclusions, it was taking more than 90% of my budget. So I just shut it off. The next thing is, the other thing you could do if you don't want to shut it off, but you want to play with it, is if you have a cold campaign, say it's spending $50 a day, duplicate that campaign and then have the main campaign spending $40 a day. It's not allowed to use the Audience Network, so that's in feed on LinkedIn. The second campaign that you just duplicated, $10 a day, it's allowed to use the Audience Network. That way you get the best of both worlds. You can leverage the Audience Network, but you've limited its budget. So I would say that's a pro tip for that. Next is targeting. So I'm not going to dive in or do a whole comprehensive on targeting, but this is really big. The big one I will point out is this setting. You definitely, let me put it in here. You definitely don't want expansion to be checked marked, because what it does is it basically enables LinkedIn to kind of take your targeting and expand on it well beyond what you might be comfortable with. So I wouldn't check mark that, but you want to focus on position titles, functions. You want to limit it, the geographies, company sizes, and there's some other ones. That could be a whole thing. The next one is add account structure. And basically, if you've seen our 6-month roadmap, actually, let me pull that up. Our 6-month roadmap here, you want to have it structured so that you're firing on all cylinders 90 days after they leave your site or interact. You have a long-term nurture and you have a high call to action structure if there's intent signals they're taking action. So that's account structure. And then demand gen principles is, and the last one, content quality, we won't get into that. Demand gen principles is pretty much, if they leave your website, what are you really trying to accomplish with these ads? Is it just hammering them over the head with more ads and trying to get them to buy your crap? Or do you have kind of a demand gen strategy where we seek to build trust and credibility to get in front of them in a meaningful way, to position ourselves as experts in that field? That's what I mean by that. So those are the main tips. That's the checklist that I would highly recommend any of you to check out. And that's all I got.